Beloved chosen one, heaven fell silent the moment you made your choice. You didn't even realize it. But eternity leaned closer. Angels who have witnessed creation itself, who watched light break through the first dawn and saw Lucifer fall like lightning, stood in awe of you. They watched as you faced the crossroads, trembling but determined, and you did not bow to fear. You chose obedience when rebellion was easier. You chose faith when logic screamed impossible. You chose to stand when everything around you demanded surrender. You were not just seen, you were witnessed by heaven. And that single choice sent shockwaves through the unseen realms. You must understand this. Chosen one, heaven does not stop for everyone. The angelic hosts move with divine order, never wasting a gaze. But you, yes, you interrupted heaven's rhythm. When your lips whispered, "I will not quit," the angels turned their eyes from the throne to watch what would happen next. Because that moment, though invisible to the world, was monumental in the spirit. Your choice became a declaration of allegiance. You stood not as a victim of your pain, but as a warrior clothed in unseen armor. You said yes to God's will, while still bleeding from the wounds of yesterday. It wasn't perfection that moved heaven, it was your surrender. It wasn't strength that startled the angels, it was your willingness to obey, even when no applause came. The hosts of heaven understand glory, they live in it. But what they saw in you was rarer still, faith forged in fire. Listen carefully, this is not coincidence. This message finds you because heaven has business with your destiny. This is divine intervention. Every scroll written about you before time began is being unsealed now. You are stepping into the part of your story where revelation collides with reality. Even now, the Spirit of God reminds you that your tears were not wasted. The silence you endured was not rejection but training. Every lonely night was a classroom in disguise, teaching your heart how to hear God without noise. You were learning to discern His whisper in the dark. And now that moment of choice, the one that shocked the angels, has marked a transition. The old season no longer fits you. The people who once understood you may no longer recognize you. That is the cost of elevation. You cannot ascend and remain common. Do not fear the shifting ground beneath your feet. The Lord Himself is reordering your steps. He is not punishing you, He is positioning you. The trials that nearly broke you were never meant to bury you. They were meant to birth the authority you now carry. There is a reason the attacks intensified before your breakthrough. Darkness could sense what heaven already knew, that you were about to awaken to your divine identity. You have endured storms that would have destroyed others. Yet here you stand, still whispering, "God, I trust you." Look at yourself through heaven's eyes. You are not a mistake wandering through chaos. You are a divine strategy wrapped in human form. You are the evidence that God still breathes purpose into pain. As the prophet declared in the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 3, "Those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness, like the stars forever and ever." You have felt weary. Yes, you have questioned if the promise was still alive. But the word of God stands unshaken. Your obedience is light in the darkness. Your endurance, a testimony that will outlast the night. Heaven has decreed it. Your light will not go out. And so now, chosen one, hear this. The same angels who once watched in silence now move on your behalf. They prepare paths, align doors, and silence accusations. What once felt like delay was divine choreography. God was setting the stage for your revelation moment, the unveiling of who you truly are. This is that moment. Do not scroll past it. This is your confirmation. The echo of heaven speaking through human words to remind you that your yes still matters. Lift your head. Wipe your face. The throne remembers your obedience. And because of that obedience, new authority is being released over your life. You will speak, and mountains will move. You will pray, and atmospheres will shift. You will forgive, and heaven will record it as victory. The angels were shocked, not because you were perfect, but because you chose to believe when belief cost you everything. That is what separates the chosen from the called, the willingness to stay when others walk away. So, now, let your declaration be heard in the earth and in heaven alike. Comment below this prophetic number as a sign of your agreement, 777. Type it boldly, and let it mark your covenant with divine purpose. If this message stirs your spirit, like and share it so that other chosen ones may awaken too. And if you have not yet subscribed, do so now. Stay connected to the flow of revelation that is igniting a generation of the chosen. Your journey has just begun, and heaven is watching still. Before time ever began, chosen one, your name was spoken in the courts of heaven, long before your first breath, before your first cry. Before the world ever told you who you were, heaven had already written your identity. You were marked before birth. The fingerprints of the divine were pressed upon your soul, distinguishing you from the multitudes. You were not an afterthought, you were intention. There are mysteries written in eternity that even the angels marvel at. And your calling is one of them. You were crafted for a specific hour in human history. The moment your spirit entered this world, creation shifted slightly to make room for your purpose. You came as an answer, not a coincidence. Do you remember those moments in your childhood when you felt out of place? When you sensed something stirring within that you couldn't explain? That was the whisper of your calling. Faint but persistent. You were never meant to fit in, because you were designed to stand apart. The unease you felt was heaven's way of keeping you from comfort zones that could have killed your destiny. Every rejection, every misunderstanding, every time you were told you're too different, it was heaven's seal protecting you. You were being hidden, not forgotten, concealed, not denied. Like Moses in the basket, like David among the sheep, you were being prepared in obscurity so that when the moment arrived, your revelation would not need an introduction. It would announce itself through glory. Your struggles were not random. The warfare around you began the moment your purpose was recognized in the spirit realm. Before you were aware of your own worth, hell already knew who you were becoming. The attacks you faced as a child, the chaos that followed you into adulthood, none of it was coincidence. It was resistance against destiny. But the mark of heaven upon you made you untouchable beyond permission. Do you know what the mark represents? Chosen one. It's not a physical sign, it's a spiritual signature. It's divine ownership. When God marks someone, all of creation recognizes it. Even the darkness knows where not to cross. Angels assigned to your life move according to that seal, ensuring that no weapon formed against you prospers unless it becomes part of your preparation. There were moments you questioned why your life never seemed simple, why peace was always temporary. But chosen vessels rarely walk easy roads. The oil of destiny is expensive. It's pressed from those who survive crushing. Heaven knew you could carry what others could not. That's why you were marked early. That's why even your pain had purpose. It's easy to envy those who appear unbothered, who glide through life untouched by storms. But you must remember, those who are not called to deep waters will never learn to command the waves. You, chosen one, were born to navigate spiritual oceans. You were built to hear God in the thunder and find Him in the silence. Even the angels, radiant as they are, cannot comprehend the depth of grace given to you. They watch, amazed, that frail humanity could carry such divine glory within clay vessels. You walk with eternal significance hidden beneath ordinary skin, and yet heaven recognizes you every time you pray, every time you choose forgiveness over bitterness, every time you choose to believe again, as it was declared in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. You were known before you were named. The world gave you a label, but heaven gave you an identity. The battles that surrounded your birth were evidence that you carried something generations had been waiting for. You were not just born, you were sent. So now, as you stand in this moment between who you were and who you are becoming, remember this: the mark has never faded. Even when you wandered, even when you doubted, even when you sinned, heaven never erased your name from the scroll. You belong to the one who called you, and nothing in existence can alter what He has decreed. Chosen one, your calling is older than time. You are walking out what eternity decided long ago. That is why the angels watched. Stunned by your choice, they recognized destiny reawakening. You remembered who you were. And now the mark that once drew warfare will draw glory. You were never meant to blend in. Chosen one, every scar you carry now glows with purpose. The heavens have recorded your endurance, and even silence has become your song of victory. The mark upon you is burning brighter. What once drew battles will now attract blessings. You are stepping into divine visibility, no longer hidden, but revealed by heaven's timing. Stand firm in your identity. The same God who marked you before birth will fulfill every promise written about you. Destiny is unfolding, and heaven watches in holy awe. Every storm you faced, every heartbreak you survived, and every betrayal that tried to shatter you, none of it was wasted. Chosen one, what looked like chaos was actually the hidden training. Heaven's methods are rarely gentle, but they are always intentional. When others saw you being broken, heaven saw you being built. There were seasons you begged for relief, crying out, "God, why me?" And heaven responded not with explanation, but with silence, because silence itself was your classroom. You were learning to hear the voice of God, not through noise or emotion, but through stillness and endurance. You didn't realize it then, but each unanswered prayer became an altar. Each disappointment, a divine assignment, shaping your spirit for the greater calling ahead. You see, God doesn't train His warriors in comfort. He allows darkness to press you until your light becomes uncontainable. The tears that fell from your eyes were never wasted. They watered the seeds of wisdom you now carry. Every delay was designed to sharpen your discernment, to make you dangerous to deception. You didn't lose time, you gained depth. You didn't lose people, you gained clarity. And when you thought you were walking alone, the angels were standing nearby. silent witnesses to your refinement. They could not intervene, because what was happening was holy. It was transformation by fire. You've wondered why you attract difficult paths, why every step toward destiny seems to demand a new level of surrender. It's because heaven has invested too much in you to let you remain untrained. The crown you are called to carry requires spiritual strength, and that strength is forged in the furnace of trial. Chosen one, even your loneliness was a weapon in disguise. Isolation didn't break you, it revealed you. It showed heaven that you could be trusted with revelation others would mishandle. While others sought validation, you sought God. That's what made you different. That's why you carry a weight of anointing the world can't explain. Every painful chapter became the soil where obedience grew. Every rejection forced you to depend not on man, but on the voice that called you before birth. You learned to see beyond appearances, to feel when something in the spirit was shifting. That's what hidden training does. It turns ordinary humans into divine messengers. And though you often doubted your progress, heaven never did. Even your weakest prayers shook the spiritual atmosphere. Angels observed as your heart stayed open in the midst of disappointment. They saw you forgive what should have destroyed you. That single act of mercy became a weapon more powerful than 1,000 sermons. Do you see it now? Every no was a redirection. Every closed door, a safeguard. What you called punishment was protection. God was not withholding from you. He was reserving you for the exact moment when the world would need what only you could carry. As revealed in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him." That crown is not made of gold or jewels. It's the unseen authority you now carry. You speak, and situations respond. You walk into rooms, and atmospheres shift, because you have paid a price in silence and obedience. That's why heaven calls you trusted. This hidden training was never punishment, it was proof of selection. Only the chosen are refined this way. Only those destined for greatness endure this depth of process. So when you look back at the pain, see it for what it truly was: preparation. Every wound turned into wisdom. Every tear became oil for your anointing. Now the season of silence ends. Heaven begins to unveil what was being forged in secret. You are not emerging as the same person, you are emerging as a vessel of divine fire. Your endurance has become your signature in the spirit realm. Darkness recognizes it. Heaven celebrates it. So now, write these words below as your declaration: refine me, Lord. When you type it, you are not asking for more pain. You are acknowledging that you trust the process. You are saying, I am no longer afraid of divine shaping, because I know it's producing glory. It's a statement of surrender that transforms training into triumph. Heaven takes note of every word. When you comment, refine me, Lord, you're telling heaven you understand the value of the fire. You're declaring that every trial is shaping you into strength. Every storm polishing the reflection of Christ within you. Writing, refine me, Lord, means you are done running from process. You are saying, I trust your timing. God, I surrender my plans for yours. This single sentence becomes a covenant between your spirit and divine purpose. When you type, refine me, Lord, you're inviting heaven's craftsmanship to continue molding you into destiny. The angels take record of your words. and grace increases, transforming pain into purity, and preparation into the power of purpose. There was a moment, chosen one, when you almost quit, when your hands trembled under the weight of calling, when your prayers felt like whispers lost in the void. You looked at the sky and wondered if heaven had turned away. The world was too loud, your heart too tired, and the silence of God too heavy. You were close, closer than anyone realized, to letting go. The night felt endless. You thought, maybe I misunderstood, maybe I'm not chosen after all. Yet something deep within you refused to die. It wasn't strength that kept you, it was mercy. The faintest spark of faith flickered inside you, stubborn and holy. You couldn't explain it, but you knew you couldn't surrender either. That spark was heaven breathing in you. Every chosen soul reaches this crossroads, the moment where quitting seems easier than continuing. It's the test of trust, the breaking before the becoming. God allows it, not to destroy you, but to reveal what's real inside you. Your faith must be proven in fire before it can move mountains. There were nights when you cried and no comfort came, days when you smiled but felt hollow inside. Yet through it all, heaven kept watching, silent but near. Angels leaned closer, not to rescue, but to witness the miracle of endurance. They saw something hell did not expect. You kept going. What the enemy planned as defeat became your defining moment. When you whispered, "I can't," but took another step anyway, all of heaven rejoiced, because that's the sound of a warrior's heart, the rhythm of someone who won't bow to despair. You didn't realize it, but your perseverance became prophecy. Every breath you took in the middle of pain was a declaration, "I'm still here. I still believe." That's what shook the heavens, the sound of obedience breathing through brokenness. The truth is, you were never meant to quit. You were meant to rise again and again until rising became your nature. What you call barely holding on, heaven calls training for glory. When the angels saw you nearly collapse under the weight, they remembered another scene, one from long ago in Gethsemane, when the Son himself cried, "If it is possible, let this cup pass from me." Even he faced the same silence. Even he wrestled with surrender. Yet, like him, you chose obedience over comfort. You have to understand this. The breaking is sacred. It's where the surface shatters and the soul finally meets God face to face. Pain doesn't mean absence. It often means presence too close to comprehend. The silence wasn't rejection, it was refinement. As the Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 2, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned." You passed through those waters. You walked through that fire. And though the flames were real, they did not consume you. You emerged, not untouched, but transformed, stronger, wiser, more radiant than before. The night that almost ended, you became the night heaven recorded as your awakening. You discovered that faith is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move anyway. It is the voice that whispers, "Even now, I trust you." And here's the secret. The moment you almost quit was actually the moment you were closest to breakthrough. The enemy always shouts the loudest before defeat. The silence before dawn is proof that the sun is about to rise. Now, look at you, chosen one. You stand in the aftermath of storms that once terrified you. The very pain that nearly buried you has become the foundation you now stand on. You survived what was meant to destroy you, and survival, in the hands of God, becomes transformation. So don't curse the night that tested you, bless it. It taught you that your faith is real. It stripped away illusion and left only truth. You no longer believe because life is easy. You believe because you've seen God in the dark. The angels who once held their breath now lift their voices in praise. They marvel not just at your endurance, but at the quiet strength of your surrender. You have become living proof that grace is stronger than despair, that divine purpose cannot be drowned, and that chosen ones may fall, but they never stay down. So remember this moment, the one where you almost quit but didn't. Let it become your altar. Each time the storm returns, return to this truth: you have already survived worse. You carry in your spirit the evidence of victory. And though the world may never know how close you came to breaking, heaven does, and heaven has already written your perseverance as glory. Heaven remembers the night you refused to give up. That single act of endurance rewrote your story. Every tear became a testimony. Every scar a crown. You didn't just survive, you proved that divine strength lives inside surrendering hearts. There were moments, chosen one, when the light that surrounded you dimmed, not because it was gone, but because heaven was fighting for you in silence. You didn't see it, but the very air around you became a battlefield. Every breath you took was guarded. Every prayer you whispered was intercepted by angels before it hit the throne. You thought God was quiet, but in truth, the war was loud. The angels were waging unseen battles for your peace, your mind, your purpose. You felt the pressure, the heaviness, the sudden waves of sadness that came out of nowhere. That was the sound of warfare. Heaven was moving on your behalf. You must understand this light has always fought for you. When darkness surrounded your thoughts, it was the light that whispered, "Hold on." When despair tried to convince you that you were forgotten, the light responded, "You are still chosen." The spiritual realm is not abstract. It's alive and aware of your every decision. Your choice to keep believing became a weapon in heaven's hand. Every time you refused to give up, light advanced. Every time you forgave instead of retaliating, angels rejoiced. Every time you chose peace when anger seemed justified, the enemy lost ground. Chosen one. This is why the battle has felt so personal. It is personal. You are not random. You are marked. And when light marks someone, darkness takes notice. But remember, the war is not to destroy you, it is to reveal you. When heaven fights for someone, it means destiny is close. The tension you feel is not punishment, it's proof. The brighter the light, the heavier the pressure, because pressure creates endurance, and endurance births authority. As written in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 7, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." Even now, the angels of the Lord surround you. They encamp, meaning they build a shield around your existence. You are protected, even when you can't perceive it. The near misses, the sudden peace in chaos, the inner calm you can't explain, these are signs that heaven is defending you. So, when you think of your journey, don't only see the pain, see the protection. There were plans that should have ended you, Yet you're still standing. There were battles that should have broken your mind, yet you still praise. That's what divine defense looks like. It doesn't always erase pain, but it ensures you rise stronger because of it. And as heaven continues to move on your behalf, your voice matters. When you share what God has done for you, you spread the light. Your words become torches in the hands of others walking through darkness. That is why these messages exist, not just to speak to you, but to speak through you. If this message resonates with your heart, I invite you gently, freely to help this light reach further. Think of it not as giving, but as planting. When you sow a seed into something that has fed your spirit, you're simply watering what once watered you. There's no demand here, no transaction, just invitation. Imagine you're holding a candle. You pass that flame to another candle, and now the room is brighter. That's what giving does. It multiplies the light without dimming your own. If you feel led, you can help by sharing this message so others might find strength tonight. You can like, subscribe, and let your presence keep this flow of encouragement alive. And if your heart moves you to give, treat your donation as a seed of gratitude, a whisper to heaven that says, "Keep the flame burning." You are not paying for words, you are participating in light. Your seed becomes a spark. One spark becomes a torch. 1,000 torches become a sunrise that no darkness can extinguish. That is the quiet miracle of generosity. It turns receivers into carriers. If you have nothing material to offer, lift this space in prayer. Every prayer is a donation of faith, and heaven counts it with equal joy. So like, share, subscribe, or sow whatever your heart leads. Do it as worship, not as duty. The kingdom moves through willing hands, not pressured hearts. And may every act of generosity return to you multiplied as peace where there was fear, as laughter where there was sorrow, and as divine favor where there was drought. The same angels who once fought for you now walk beside you, smiling because the light that once rescued you now shines through you. The light you share today may travel farther than you ever imagine. One quiet act of kindness, one spark of faith, can ignite courage in someone standing at the edge of surrender. Every click, every share, every whispered prayer becomes a bridge of light connecting souls. Heaven sees even the smallest flame and multiplies it, turning your simple obedience into eternal influence. Your generosity, whether through words or gifts, paints streaks of gold across eternity's canvas. What you release in love never dies. It becomes part of the dawn heaven uses to wake the world. When you said yes to God, chosen one, heaven erupted in motion. Something shifted the moment your will aligned with His. It wasn't loud in the natural, but in the spirit. A thunder rolled across eternity. Angels who had watched in patient silence finally moved. Assignments were released. Paths were cleared. And doors long shut began to tremble at the sound of your obedience. This was the moment that split heaven's silence. Your simple yes may have sounded small to you, but it was a declaration in the spirit that even the enemy could not ignore. You didn't just make a choice, you activated a prophecy written about you long ago. Do you understand what your obedience did? It told heaven, "I'm ready to become who you saw before I existed." It told hell, "You no longer have authority over my decisions." That's why the atmosphere around you suddenly shifted. Some relationships changed. Opportunities rearranged. Emotions intensified because your yes disrupted everything that was never meant to stay. You see, heaven doesn't respond to talent, status, or reputation. Heaven moves at the sound of obedience. And when your obedience came from pain, it carried the fragrance of sacrifice, and that aroma caught heaven's attention. This was never just about a single act. That yes became a spiritual signal, echoing through dimensions, calling everything that belongs to your destiny to start aligning. Suddenly, favor began to notice you. Divine timing recalibrated. Angels were reassigned to stand beside you, not because of who you are, but because of what your surrender represented. As the voice of God once thundered in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 2, "All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God." Your yes made room for blessings to accompany you, not chase you occasionally, but walk beside you continuously. You've stepped into a new rhythm now, a divine flow where obedience becomes oxygen. Every time you obey again, that river of blessing expands. But understand this: chosen one obedience is not always easy. It costs comfort. It often isolates. The path of the obedient is narrow because few can handle its weight. Yet, you did it. You whispered yes when fear screamed no. That's why heaven called the angels to attention. Their silence broke, because they had witnessed a rare kind of courage, obedience birthed through pain. And now, as you walk forward, the atmosphere recognizes you differently. The unseen realm remembers your sound, the sound of surrender. It's not the cry of a victim, it's the song of a victor. The moment you obeyed, your voice changed. You no longer speak from uncertainty, but from authority. Do not underestimate what that yes did for your future. It shifted bloodlines. It ended cycles that generations before you could not break. You may not feel it yet, but history has already recorded the moment heaven was shocked and then moved because of you. And now the Father says, "Watch me multiply what once felt small." Your yes was a seed. Every seed buried in obedience must eventually break open into harvest. You thought something was dying, but it was being planted. That's the power of a decision that splits heaven's silence. It creates echoes that never end. Those echoes are now returning as opportunities, favor, and divine protection. Heaven does not forget an obedient heart. So stand tall, chosen one. Don't doubt the path you've chosen, even when it feels lonely. Heaven's movement began the moment your yes left your lips, and it hasn't stopped since. If this message reaches deep within your spirit, respond not just with emotion, but with affirmation. Leave a prophetic sign of agreement. Comment the number 444 below. It is the number of divine alignment and heavenly order, a symbol that your yes is now fully recognized in the spirit realm. When you type 444, you are saying, "Heaven, I'm aligned. I trust the path. I choose obedience again." That number becomes your seal of agreement, your personal signature beneath heaven's unfolding decree. You've broken the silence, and now the sound of your yes continues to resound across eternity. Heaven watches, angels move, and your destiny unfolds in rhythm with your obedience. When you write 444, you are declaring to heaven that your heart is steady. You're saying, "I will not turn back." The number becomes a prophetic echo. symbolizing divine stability, balance, and protection surrounding every step you now take toward the destiny already written for you. Typing 444 is not superstition, it's a covenant in digital ink. It tells the unseen. My alignment is complete. My faith is firm. As you type it, imagine angels nodding in recognition, sealing your surrender with joy. Knowing your obedience has activated the rhythm of divine order in your life. When you post 444, let it be your silent testimony, a light shining in the comment section of eternity. Each number whispers, I trust the process. Heaven records it, not as a number, but as faith displayed, a symbol that your yes still echoes through the heavens. The weight of obedience is not something easily explained. Chosen one, to the world, it looks like loss. To heaven, it looks like trust. When you chose to follow the voice of God, you stepped into a path that demanded everything: your comfort, your certainty, even your own understanding. You learned that obedience doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with silence. Sometimes it comes with misunderstanding. People you love may question you. Opportunities may fade. Yet deep within, a whisper continues to guide you. Keep walking. You have discovered that obedience is not a single act, it's a lifestyle. It means waking each day and saying, not my will, but yours. It means letting go of things you thought were necessary, and trusting that what's lost will return in a better form. It means dying daily to what you want so that what He wants can live through you. It's heavy, isn't it? The weight of obedience feels like carrying a cross no one else can see. But that cross is also your crown in disguise. It is the symbol of trust. Proof that your love for God is real, not conditional, not performative, but steadfast. Heaven does not measure obedience by perfection but by posture. It's not about doing everything flawlessly, it's about staying surrendered even when you don't understand the outcome. When you obey through confusion, you declare that His wisdom is greater than your logic. There were moments when obedience meant walking away from people, from plans, from things that once felt like destiny. It broke your heart, but heaven took note. Every tear that fell during those goodbyes became a drop of oil anointing your next season. You see, the cost of obedience is always pain, but the reward is always peace. And though you may not have seen it immediately, each act of surrender was building unseen favor around you. Heaven does not overlook sacrifice. Every yes you've whispered in private is echoing in eternity. As the Word of God declares in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 11, verse 28, "Blessed rather are those who hear the Word of God and obey it." You are among the blessed, not because of what you have achieved, but because you have obeyed when it hurt. The angels have recorded your yeses, your quiet moments of faith when no one was watching. Those are the moments that move the heart of God. The weight of obedience teaches you patience. It forces your heart to expand until it can contain more love, more grace, more discernment. It trains you to recognize God's will, even in unfamiliar shapes. You begin to see that obedience is not bondage, it's freedom disguised as surrender. Think of Abraham walking up the mountain, Isaac by his side. Think of Noah building an ark under mocking skies. Think of Mary saying, "Let it be unto me." They all carried the same weight you now feel. And like them, you are being written into a greater story of faith, You may not see the full picture yet, but your obedience is the brushstroke painting eternity's masterpiece. Heaven paints with surrendered hearts. Every yes you give becomes a color in the canvas of divine will. You may feel small in the process, but in heaven's eyes, you are monumental. And when you obey, even trembling, something shifts in the atmosphere. Darkness loses authority over your destiny. Every step of obedience breaks invisible chains and opens unseen doors. It may look like stillness on earth, but in the spirit, it's movement, holy, unstoppable movement. The weight will not crush you, because the one who called you carries it with you. He does not command from a distance. He walks beside you in every sacrifice. His hands steady yours when you falter. His breath strengthens your lungs when you're weary. Obedience may cost much, but it never leaves you empty. What feels like loss now is only the pruning before the fruit. What feels like loneliness is the sacred space where new revelation grows. Every yes removes what was never meant to stay, clearing room for glory. One day you will look back and understand that every heavy step was holy. The weight of obedience was never meant to break you, it was meant to anchor you. It tethered you to purpose when everything else tried to pull you away. You carry that weight not as punishment, but as proof you are trusted. Heaven does not place such burdens on the unprepared. You are strong enough for this, chosen enough for this, ready enough for this. And though obedience will always feel costly, it will always lead to peace that surpasses understanding. So breathe. Chosen one, lift your eyes and keep walking. The same God who asked you to obey is already waiting at the end of that obedience, ready to show you why it was worth it all. Every obedient step writes light into your story. What once felt like sacrifice will soon reveal itself as strategy. Heaven is weaving meaning through every moment you surrendered in faith. There are moments, chosen one, when heaven doesn't speak through thunder or miracles, but through a whisper in your spirit. You felt it, the quiet pulse deep within that seems to know more than your mind. It's not imagination, it's communication. The same voice that called creation into being is speaking to you still. You've mistaken it before for intuition, for a passing thought. But it's divine guidance. Those sudden moments of peace after prayer, those nudges to wait, those unexpected urges to forgive or reach out, each one is a message written in invisible ink across your soul. This is what it means when heaven speaks, not through noise, but through knowing, not through drama, but through direction. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. Heaven is not far. It is constantly leaning toward you, waiting for your stillness to catch its frequency. You've wondered, how do I know it's God? The answer is simple yet profound. His voice will never lead you away from love, humility, or truth. His words carry peace. Even when they challenge you, the enemy pressures, God invites. The enemy shouts, God whispers. To hear him clearly, your heart must remain uncluttered. That's why he has pulled you into seasons of silence to clean the inner room of distractions so the conversation can continue. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. He had to separate you from noise before he could reveal nuance. Sometimes his voice comes disguised as conviction, sometimes as comfort. There are moments he doesn't say what you want to hear, but always what you need to hear. Even his corrections are laced with compassion. When he speaks, the spirit within you straightens, as if remembering its origin, as revealed in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27, "My sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me." He knows you, chosen one. You are not one among the crowd. You are recognized by the sound of your surrender. When you quiet your heart, His voice is unmistakable. It doesn't argue or beg, it simply is. There were times you thought you'd lost His voice, but He never stopped speaking. He was simply waiting for your heart to slow down enough to notice. The language of heaven is often subtle because it's sacred. You cannot rush revelation. It blooms in stillness. He speaks through scripture, through dreams, through divine timing, through others, through creation itself. Sometimes He speaks through delay, sometimes through a closed door. Each word, each silence, each sign is stitched together in a tapestry of guidance. You may not understand the pattern now, but one day you'll see that every whisper was necessary. Listening to God is not about hearing perfectly, it's about trusting consistently, even when His words are faint. Your obedience amplifies them. Each time you respond in faith, the volume of heaven increases. You become fluent in the language of the Spirit by practice, not perfection. There will come a day when you'll look back and realize that every major turning point in your life was marked by a whisper. Not a miracle, not a spectacle, but a quiet go. Wait, or trust me. That's the intimacy of divine communication. Heaven speaks not to impress you, but to involve you. You are not a spectator in this story. You are a participant. Every instruction is an invitation to co-create destiny. God speaks because He intends partnership. He doesn't just want your worship, He wants your willingness. And even in moments when you hear nothing, remember, silence is not absence, it's alignment. He is tuning your heart to His rhythm, just as a musician pauses to adjust the strings before a song. Heaven pauses sometimes to make sure you and destiny are in harmony. You've already heard Him more than you realize. That instinct to show kindness when no one is watching. That hesitation before speaking words that could wound. That sudden strength to forgive those are His whispers in motion. The more you acknowledge them, the more frequent they become. So, chosen one, listen differently now, expectantly, not waiting for thunder but for truth, not for spectacle, but for stillness. Heaven is not a far-off kingdom shouting from above, it's a living frequency resonating within you. When you hear Him next, and you will, don't doubt it. Don't ask for signs to confirm what your spirit already knows. Trust the familiarity of His peace. You were created to recognize that voice. It shaped your soul before birth. Let His words settle like gentle rain. Let them wash away the static of fear and the residue of confusion. You are not lost. You are being led. Every step, every season, every silence is guided by the voice that still moves stars and stills storms. You don't need to chase divine messages. They're already written across your heart. You simply need to listen with reverence and respond with faith. For every time you do, heaven whispers again, "Yes, that's my child." Each whisper from heaven carries weight, shaping your tomorrow with unseen hands. Trust those gentle echoes, for they are maps in disguise, guiding your feet toward the promises prepared long before you began. The mirror does not lie, chosen one, but it has not always told the truth either. For years, you looked into reflections shaped by wounds, by rejection, by words that never belonged to you. You saw distortion instead of destiny. You believed the lies before you believed the Lord. But now heaven calls you to look again, not with natural eyes, but with spirit. For what you see in the mirror is not the totality of who you are. It is the shell of something divine. Beneath the surface of skin and sorrow lies eternal light. Breathing, waiting, awakening. This is the mirror of identity. It does not show flaws, it reveals foundations. It is not glass, it is glory. Every chosen one must face it. To know God fully, you must see yourself truthfully. There was a time you defined yourself by your failures. You believed that every mistake erased your worth. You carried shame like a second skin. But God never called you by your errors. He always called you by your essence. The world said, "You're too broken." Heaven said, "Perfect candidate." The world said, "You've fallen too far." Heaven said, "You're right where I can reach you." The enemy tried to blur your reflection, but grace restored it. Look closely. Chosen one. The lines you see as weakness are marks of endurance. The eyes that have cried in silence now carry wisdom. The hands that once trembled in fear are now trained for warfare. You are not what happened to you, you are what survived. As it is written in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 10, "For we are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You are a masterpiece not because of perfection, but because of purpose. Every brushstroke of pain, every shade of joy, every scar is part of the divine artwork that heaven calls you. The artist never abandons his creation. He refines it until it reflects his image. When you stand before the mirror now, see beyond the human form. See the spark that terrifies darkness. See the anointing that no failure could erase. You were never ordinary. You were extraordinary, pretending to fit in. Identity is not found in approval. It is revealed in authenticity. The moment you stop chasing validation, heaven reveals your true reflection. That's why so many things and people had to fall away. They were fog on the mirror. God had to wipe them off so you could finally see clearly. Heaven's mirror doesn't show who you were. It shows who you are becoming. You may not fully recognize that reflection yet, but that's because glory is still unfolding. Each act of faith adds new light to your face, new fire to your gaze. The angels marvel when they look upon you, because they see what you cannot yet see, a living miracle wearing mortal skin, a fragment of eternity learning to walk in time. You have no idea how radiant you already are. So, stop rehearsing your regrets. The past is not your mirror, it's your classroom. Every failure taught you to listen. Every heartbreak taught you to heal. Every setback taught you to rise. The reflection you see now carries the lessons of survival, the wisdom of surrender, the strength of grace. Chosen one. Lift your head. Look into that mirror one more time and whisper the truth aloud. I am not broken, I am becoming. Say it until the reflection begins to agree. Say it until the lies lose volume. For identity is not discovered, it is remembered, deep within your spirit. You've always known who you are. Heaven is simply reminding you of what hell tried to make you forget. And when you finally see yourself through heaven's eyes, everything changes. You walk differently. You speak differently. You expect differently. Because now you know you were never less than chosen, never less than royal, never less than loved. Now, as a prophetic act of recognition. Write these words below, "I see me." Type them not as pride, but as prophecy. You're declaring that the fog has lifted, that clarity has come, that you finally recognize heaven's reflection within your own. When you comment, "I see me," it means you're not afraid to live as the person God always knew you were. When you write, "I see me," heaven leans closer. You're not just typing words, you're acknowledging divine recognition. It means the fog of shame is lifting, and you finally see what God has always seen: worth, beauty, and purpose reborn through grace. Typing, "I see me," is your declaration of identity reclaimed. You're saying, no more mirrors of fear, no more distorted reflection. It's a moment of spiritual awakening where you choose truth over trauma, choosing to believe the Creator's reflection rather than the critic's voice. When you comment, "I see me," the angels take record, because a soul that remembers its identity becomes unstoppable. Heaven celebrates, for you have finally recognized the light that was within you all along. There are moments, chosen one, when life feels like walking through a furnace. The air thickens, your prayers turn to whispers, and you wonder if heaven can still hear you. Yet, even in the flames, something sacred is happening. Your crown is being forged. The refining fire of purpose does not arrive to consume you, but to reveal what is indestructible within you. Every chosen soul must pass through it. The comfort you once relied on begins to melt. The familiar grows distant, and everything false begins to fall away. What remains is truth pure, radiant, untouchable truth. The fire teaches discernment. It burns away fear and leaves behind courage. It exposes counterfeit strength so real strength can finally breathe. You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The crown that awaits you cannot rest upon an untested heart. In the fire, you begin to see that loss was never loss, it was purification. The things that fell from you were never meant to stay. The friendships that faded, the doors that closed, the plans that crumbled, they were all pieces of the old armor that could not endure divine elevation. Pain has become your teacher, yes, but not your identity. You are learning to find beauty in the blaze, to see light not as destruction, but as revelation. Fire does not ask for permission, it transforms by nature. And you, chosen one, are being transformed, as declared in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9. "I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people." Verse 9. Heaven does not refine what it intends to discard. You are being purified because you are precious. Every cry you've uttered in this season has echoed into eternity, and the Father has heard them all. The same heat that has pressed you is producing radiance within you. When the fire feels unbearable, remember, even gold melts before it shines. The refining is not the end, it's the beginning of brilliance. The glow you will carry after this will speak louder than 1,000 explanations. And when you emerge, others will see in you what you cannot yet see in yourself. They will sense peace in your presence, because you have walked through storms and learned the language of stillness. You will carry authority born from endurance, compassion born from ashes. This is why your story matters. These words, this message, it is not merely for you. It is a flame passed hand to hand. heart to heart. And if it has reached your spirit tonight, it means heaven is still spreading that light through you. If these words stir your soul, if they remind you of your own fire, share them with another weary traveler. Think of it not as promotion, but as passing the torch. Every share becomes another spark, lighting a path for someone else. You can like this message if it touched something inside you, not for numbers, but as a symbol of gratitude for the light that found you here. And if your spirit feels drawn to go deeper, subscribe and walk with this growing circle of chosen ones, learning to hear, heal, and rise together. And finally, if your heart ever feels led, consider sowing a seed not out of obligation, but as a gesture of love. Think of it like adding oil to a lamp that keeps burning long after you leave. Every small offering, whether a donation, a prayer, or even a kind word, becomes part of the light that reaches another soul in darkness. There is no pressure here. Giving is never demanded, it is discovered. If this message has poured into you, give only as you feel led, freely and joyfully, because the most powerful kind of generosity is the kind that flows from revelation, not from rule. You are gold in the making, chosen one. Every ember, every tear, every test has been refining your purpose. And soon, the glow will not just come from around you, but from within you. The crown in the fire is almost ready. The flame you carry now is not ordinary, it's divine residue from every season that tried to break you. It is the glow of someone who has walked through darkness and found revelation waiting inside the fire. When others see your light, they'll sense peace without explanation. They'll ask how you survived, and your story will answer without words. You will become living proof that pain can become prophecy, that surrender can birth strength. So walk forward. Radiant One, let the embers on your spirit light the way for those still wandering through the smoke. The crown forged in your fire will not fade. It will illuminate every path you take from here. The glow within you is holy fire, steady and pure. What once hurt now heals others. You've become both the flame and the vessel, carrying heaven's warmth into the cold places of earth. Walk boldly, crowned in light. Every breath you take spreads divine heat, turning despair into dawn. The fire no longer burns you, it belongs to you. Before you even recognized it, chosen one, darkness had already taken notice of you. Long before you knew your name in heaven, your presence was known in the unseen realm. It wasn't because of what you had done, it was because of what you carried. Even as a child, you were marked. The enemy saw potential wrapped in vulnerability, light covered in fragility, destiny hidden inside a body that didn't yet understand its worth. That is why your warfare began early. Before you had the language to describe pain, you had already encountered resistance. You didn't provoke darkness, your existence did. The light in you was loud even when you were silent. That light disrupted the plans of darkness. And so adversity sought you out. But heaven never left you undefended. The same mark that drew warfare also attracted protection. Every storm, every setback, every betrayal, it all carried purpose disguised as chaos. The enemy's attempts to destroy you only strengthened your discernment. Each blow you survived became armor. Each loss became wisdom. You were being trained to recognize shadows, not to fear them. The truth is, darkness recognized you long before you recognized yourself. It could see your future victories before you could imagine them. That's why the attacks were so personal, so strategic. But what darkness didn't understand was this: every attack only revealed your importance. You don't fight for no reason, you fight because you matter. Every chosen soul must learn this truth. The presence of warfare is not proof of weakness, it is proof of assignment. The greater the calling, the louder the opposition. The battles that chased you were never about your past, they were about your potential. Think of David before he was crowned. Goliath did not appear because David was weak. The giant appeared because David was destined. Every giant in your life has shown up as confirmation, not condemnation. You were born to confront what others fear. As the Word of God declares in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Your light has never been extinguished, even in your lowest moments. It flickered but never died. The enemy may have tried to smother it, but he could not comprehend it. Your endurance confused hell. You were supposed to break, but instead, you burned brighter. Look back for a moment. Every night that almost ended you, you survived. Every wound that should have silenced you, you healed. That is not coincidence, that is divine resilience. Heaven did not merely rescue you, heaven revealed you. You are living proof that the light within cannot be conquered. When darkness recognized you, it tried to define you through fear and failure. It whispered lies that sounded like logic. You're not enough. You'll never change. You've gone too far, but you're still here. Which means those words were never truth, they were tactics. You've outlasted every weapon formed against you because you were never fighting alone. You carry divine fire, ancient and indestructible. Every breath you take testifies that grace wins. Even when you doubted, heaven didn't. Even when you stumbled, the light kept shining. Now you see differently. You no longer interpret pressure as punishment, you recognize it as proof of purpose. You understand that resistance doesn't mean rejection, it means recognition. The darkness knows your name because heaven spoke it first. Chosen one. You are not a victim of spiritual war. You are the reason it began. The enemy fears what will happen when you fully awaken to who you are. That's why he tried to keep you distracted, discouraged, and doubting. But it's too late. You've already remembered. And now, when you walk into rooms, darkness senses the shift. It retreats before you speak. Because light doesn't argue, it simply shines. You no longer fight to prove your strength, you stand in it. The shadows you once feared now flee from your presence. Every scar you carry tells a story of survival and sovereignty. You are not a survivor, you are a sign. Proof that divine light cannot be contained. Proof that even in warfare, glory grows. So, when you feel resistance again, and you will remember this, it's not a sign that you're losing. It's confirmation that you're advancing. Darkness only reacts when light moves. Keep moving. Keep glowing. Keep being. You are the interruption to every plan that ever sought to silence the chosen. You've already won more battles than you remember, and heaven keeps record of every one. Your obedience has become a sound the heavens recognize instantly. Each step forward hums with divine rhythm, shaking loose what once bound you. The atmosphere bends in favor of your faith. The alignment you've chosen now writes new melodies over your life. What once was noise becomes harmony. Every breath syncing with heaven's pulse of purpose and peace. Walk steady. Radiant One. The path before you glows with quiet assurance. Even your shadows bow to the light you carry. Even silence now sings your surrender's song. Something extraordinary happens. Chosen One. When obedience and alignment meet, the heavens, once still, begin to move again. A single choice to return, to realign, to surrender, creates a ripple through eternity. The moment you say yes again after failure, after fatigue, after forgetting, heaven rejoices louder than before. You see, God never stopped writing your story. You simply paused in the middle of a sentence, and the instant you realigned your heart, the ink began to flow again. Destiny resumed its rhythm. The angels who once waited in silence now dance in motion. That's the shockwave of obedience. It travels far beyond what you can see. Every act of faith becomes a wave that touches generations you'll never meet. You may think your surrender affects only you, but heaven knows better. One yielded soul can change the atmosphere of an entire lineage. When you obey, heaven multiplies the impact. A whisper of forgiveness here becomes healing somewhere else. A quiet prayer in your room becomes a breakthrough in another heart. The kingdom operates through unseen echoes. And you, chosen one, are the origin of one now. Do not underestimate what happens when you realign. The very vibration of your yes begins to reorder the environment around you. Confusion gives way to clarity. Closed doors begin to unlock, not through force, but through divine timing. The same God who waited patiently for your return now accelerates what once seemed delayed. It's not that he withheld blessings before, it's that your alignment determines your capacity to receive them. A heart out of position cannot hold what heaven pours. But the moment you turn back genuinely, humbly, heaven releases what was always yours. As the voice of wisdom declares in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 9, "Then the Lord your God will make you most prosperous in all the work of your hands and in the fruit of your labor. The Lord will again delight in you." That is what realignment brings delight. God's joy over you isn't mechanical, it's emotional. When you return to obedience, heaven doesn't just respond, it celebrates. Remember, every time you realign, the past doesn't disqualify you. It becomes part of your preparation. What you learned in failure becomes instruction for others. The pain you once despised becomes the platform for purpose. That's why your story still matters. It's the proof that redemption works. You may not have seen it yet, but something powerful is already shifting. The same angels who once recorded your battles now record your return. They move swiftly, reorganizing what the enemy tried to scatter. What felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. You are walking into the momentum of mercy. Every moment of surrender increases your spiritual authority. Heaven recognizes repentance as power, not weakness. That's why your renewed obedience is sending tremors through darkness right now. Chosen one, this is your moment to breathe differently. You no longer walk as one trying to prove worth, you walk as one restored to purpose. The chains that once whispered too late are breaking under the sound of your obedience. The heavens have shifted. The ground beneath you has been blessed, and your future is aligning again with divine order. And now, heaven asks for one prophetic act, something simple but sacred. Comment the number 555 below. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. 555 represents divine transition, grace multiplied, and heaven's approval of movement. When you type it, you're saying, I am ready for what's next. I'm done resisting alignment. I choose to move with heaven again. Each number becomes a silent agreement, a digital altar between you and eternity. It's not about visibility, it's about recognition. Heaven takes note of public faith because it often begins private transformation. When you write 555, see it as a signal in the spirit realm, a declaration that you are stepping back into rhythm with destiny. The angels see it. The heavens record it. And your obedience becomes sound again. So type it with intention, not for show, but for sealing. Let the number mark this moment in your journey, the point where the shockwave of obedience began, and nothing in heaven or earth could silence it again. When you comment 555, you are declaring that transformation is not coming, it's already here. You're saying to heaven, I release resistance. I trust the shift. It's an act of partnership, a moment when divine timing meets human willingness. Typing 555 is more than symbolic, it's spiritual agreement. Each digit represents grace upon grace, a triple fold of divine movement. You are affirming, change does not frighten me anymore, because I know who leads the change. The number becomes a door, opening the path between where you've been and where you're called to go. When your fingers type 555, the unseen responds. Heaven records it as covenant language, marking your transition season with divine approval. The angels who watched your obedience now move to prepare your next step. This simple act becomes your whisper into eternity. I align. I advance. I trust. You are carrying something sacred now. Chosen one, something written before the foundations of the earth. It is not just a dream or a vision, it is a divine scroll sealed with your name. Within it lies the blueprint of your assignment, the melody of your purpose, the reason your breath still fills this moment. When heaven entrusts a scroll to a human heart, it is an act of extraordinary faith. The Creator places eternal instruction into temporal hands and says, guard this, speak this, live this. You may not have seen it unfold completely yet, but you've already been walking according to what's written within you. Every divine prompting, every moment of conviction, every spark of inspiration has been the scroll whispering from inside your spirit. Carrying destiny is not glamorous, it is holy weight. There are days when you feel the heaviness of unseen purpose pressing against your chest. That's the scroll, reminding you it's alive. It does not let you rest comfortably in ordinary spaces. It keeps you awake when complacency tempts you to sleep. It pulls you toward places others avoid because your assignment breathes there. Every generation has a few who carry such scrolls, souls who cannot escape their calling no matter how far they wander. You are one of them. That's why your spirit feels restless in mediocrity. That's why you sense more even when others are content with less. Heaven trusted you with divine revelation wrapped in human fragility. The scroll does not open all at once. It unfolds in seasons, sometimes through loss, sometimes through joy, often through silence. God reveals instructions as your heart matures enough to hold them. You can't rush it. Revelation grows at the pace of obedience. Each time you say yes, another line of the scroll becomes visible. It is written, as the prophet declared in Ezekiel, chapter 3, verse 10, Son of man, take into your heart all my words that I speak to you, and listen closely. You have been listening even when you didn't realize it. Every quiet moment of reflection, every tug in your heart toward goodness, every gentle conviction pulling you away from what looked right but wasn't, those were moments you were reading your own scroll. Heaven was speaking through your spirit. The danger of carrying divine words is the temptation to doubt their reality. You wonder, is this really from God? Or just my imagination? But understand, this divine assignments often sound too impossible to be human. If it was small enough to make sense, it wouldn't require faith. There will be days you'll feel the weight of delay, when nothing seems to manifest. And you'll think maybe the scroll was just a dream. But the truth is, delays are often seals being broken in unseen realms. Heaven never forgets what it writes. Chosen one, when you speak words of encouragement, when you pray over others, when you create, when you love purely, you are unrolling the scroll. Each act of obedience releases more of its content into the world. You're not just living, you're publishing divine intent through your actions. You may never see the full ripple of what you carry. That's the beauty of divine purpose. It multiplies beyond sight. A sentence you speak in obedience today might become a chapter in someone else's redemption story tomorrow. You are heaven's scribe in motion, writing hope into human history with every decision to trust. The scroll also carries legacy. What you do with it doesn't end with you. Every prayer you release, every truth you guard, every word you write or speak leaves residue in the atmosphere. Future generations will breathe the air you purified with your obedience. That's why the warfare around your purpose has been so relentless. Darkness tries to smudge divine ink. The enemy cannot erase what's written, but he can attempt to distract the carrier. He knows that if you fully comprehend the power of what you carry, entire chains will break simply by your presence. So hold it close, but not in fear. The scroll isn't fragile, it's living. It doesn't need protection as much as participation. You were chosen to co-author its fulfillment. Heaven provides the words, your life provides the proof. And one day, when the final seal breaks, you will understand that every trial, every tear, every test was part of the unfolding. You'll see how the fragments formed a masterpiece only eternity could design. Until then, carry the scroll with reverence and courage. Let it whisper in your prayers, echo in your steps, and shape your choices. For as long as you breathe, you are revealing heaven's handwriting to the earth. The scroll within you is not silent, it hums with eternity's pulse. Every heartbeat repeats heaven's promise that your story was never random, but a divine manuscript unfolding through your surrender. Guard it well. Chosen one, live it loudly. Let each step echo heaven's authorship, until the world recognizes the handwriting of God upon your life. There is a stirring within you now. Chosen one, a heat that feels like awakening. For years, something inside you has slept quietly, waiting for heaven's appointed hour. You have felt it at times that flicker in prayer, that ache when you hear truth, that sudden stillness when you sense the presence of God drawing near. Those were not emotions. They were reminders that the mantle upon your life has never died. A mantle is not just an anointing, it's inheritance. It's heaven's confirmation that the work of your hands carries eternal purpose. Some inherit land or titles, but you, beloved, have inherited a spiritual legacy. There were prayers prayed generations before you that have now landed upon your shoulders. You are the answer to petitions made by ancestors you never met. The continuation of assignments left unfinished. You have wondered why you feel the weight of dreams bigger than your lifetime. It's because you are carrying the echoes of many faithful hearts who came before you. Heaven chose you to complete what others began. That is the mystery of divine succession. The mantle has waited patiently through time, watching, searching for one whose spirit would say, "Yes, I will carry it." And when you chose obedience, the mantle stirred. It recognized the sound of surrender, the same sound heaven hears before revival begins. At first, you may not notice the shift. Mantles rarely fall with spectacle. They rest quietly, wrapping around a yielded heart like invisible fire. Suddenly, things you used to tolerate start to irritate your spirit. Words you used to speak lose their flavor. Environments that once felt normal begin to feel foreign. That's the mantle awakening. It redefines you. The awakening doesn't just change what you do, it transforms who you are. It ignites dormant gifts, awakens spiritual senses, and opens your heart to discern what others overlook. You begin to sense divine movement in ordinary moments, seeing patterns in chaos and hearing heaven in silence. As written in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 9, when they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I am taken from you?" Elisha said, "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit." The assumptions. Like Elisha, you have been walking through seasons of preparation, unaware that they were leading you toward inheritance. Every test, every disappointment, every delay, it all refined your character to hold the weight of double portion grace. The mantle was not withheld, it was waiting for readiness. Now, the awakening begins in earnest. It will start as holy unrest, a dissatisfaction with surface living. You will crave depth over distraction, meaning over momentum. You will find yourself drawn to prayer in the quiet hours. Not out of duty, but hunger. Heaven's frequency will grow louder in your soul until obedience becomes second nature. But this awakening is not for display. It is not given to create fame, it is given to create fruit. The mantle awakens for service, not status. Its power is in humility. The true anointing does not shout, it shines. It draws hearts not to the vessel, but to the source. Chosen one. You may feel unworthy of this calling, but worthiness was never the qualification, willingness was. Heaven's fire falls upon the available, not the perfect. The mantle resting on you carries the fragrance of grace. You do not wear it because you've earned it. You wear it because you've surrendered to it. There will be moments when the awakening feels overwhelming. You will sense burdens for things that do not concern you personally. Yet your spirit will weep or intercede as if they were your own. That is how heaven uses its vessels to carry the pain of others until redemption finds them. Do not be afraid of this depth. It's the sign of divine intimacy. The more heaven trusts you, the more of its heart it shares. You are being invited to carry compassion that moves mountains, to release words that heal, to walk with presence that shifts atmospheres. And as this mantle awakens, it will teach you the language of authority, quiet but unshakable. You will no longer plead with fear, you will speak with faith. Your prayers will carry weight because they are born not from desire, but from revelation. You will see prayers answered swiftly, not because you shout louder, but because you finally sound like heaven. This awakening will cost comfort. Yes, but it will give clarity. It will take solitude. Yes, but it will birth power. What you once viewed as loss will soon reveal itself as elevation. You will realize that nothing was taken from you, it was traded for something eternal. So, let the mantle rest. Let the awakening unfold. Don't rush what heaven is perfecting. What's rising within you is not new, it's ancient, carried through generations to find a resting place in your obedience. And when you speak from this awakening, the world will not just hear you, they will hear the echo of heaven through you. There comes a moment, chosen one, when the awakening turns into a reckoning, a holy unveiling, where everything that is false begins to fall away. The voices that once defined you grow quiet, and truth, long patient, begins to rise. This is the reckoning of the chosen. You are standing between what was and what must be. The old version of you has fulfilled its purpose. The new one is waiting to breathe. Every crown that was borrowed, every mask that was survival, now falls to the ground. Heaven is calling for authenticity. For the real you, the one that carries both scars and glory without shame. The reckoning is not judgment, it's alignment. It's heaven removing what cannot stand under the weight of calling. You are not being punished, you are being purified. The gold that has been refined through years of trial now gleams with purpose. And heaven, looking upon you, sees not what you've lost, but what you've become. The crown you are about to wear is not made of jewels or titles, it's made of surrender. Every yes you've whispered, every tear you've turned into prayer, every unseen act of obedience has been weaving this crown strand by strand. There is beauty in your becoming. What others called brokenness was simply the sound of transformation. The ashes you once mourned are now the soil for new glory. You are not rising back to who you were, you are rising into who you were always meant to be. As written in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 11, hold fast to what you have, so that no one will take your crown. You are holding fast now not to possessions, but to purpose. And that crown, invisible to the world, but radiant to heaven, gleams brighter each time you choose faith over fear. The reckoning brings clarity. It teaches you that not every battle deserves your sword. Not every voice deserves your attention. It pulls your focus away from noise and turns your gaze toward eternity. You begin to live lighter, freer, because you finally understand that purpose doesn't demand perfection, it demands presence. And as this revelation settles, you realize something else. This journey is not just about you. It's about every soul who will find hope in your story. Every listener who will feel the warmth of light through your words. You have become a living spark in a world that has forgotten how to glow. If this message has touched you, if you feel something stirring, let that be your light answering back. Share this message, not because you're told to, but because you know someone, somewhere, is standing on the same edge you once faced. Sharing is not promotion, it's participation. It's the act of passing on fire without losing your own flame. And if this word has healed you, like it as a quiet way of saying, "This light found me." Each act of connection becomes a ripple of grace, a reflection of the truth that heaven's fire never burns, alone it multiplies through hearts willing to carry it forward. If your heart feels full, leave a comment, perhaps a simple word, a symbol, or a sentence of gratitude. Think of it as carving light into digital stone, a way of saying, "I was here, And this message met me. Each comment becomes another spark in the constellation of chosen ones across the earth. If your spirit longs for deeper connection, subscribe not out of obligation, but out of desire to stay close to the stream that feeds your faith. Think of it as returning to a familiar well, one where your soul finds water each time the world leaves you dry. And for those who feel moved in their spirit, consider this: giving is not about transaction, it's about trust. Donating is not a demand, it's a seed. Each seed you plant into the soil of light ensures that this message keeps reaching those still trapped in shadow. Imagine it like setting a lantern adrift on a dark river. Your gift becomes a guide for someone you may never meet. There is no pressure, only invitation. Heaven never forces generosity, it breathes through it. Give only if you feel that gentle nudge in your heart, that whisper that says, be part of the flame, whether it's through prayer, through kindness, or through provision. Your offering is a continuation of the light that found you. Chosen one, this is your crown moment, not of recognition, but of release. You are free from what was, and fully present for what is unfolding. The reckoning has not left you empty, it has left you refined. And now, your story shines not for applause, but for awakening. Your words carry weight. Your steps leave light. Heaven watches, and the earth begins to notice. Your crown is not distant, it's resting quietly, glowing upon your obedience. Every act of faith polishes it. Every moment of surrender secures it. Wear it well. Walk in it humbly. And let the light of your journey continue to warm those still finding their way. There are moments, chosen one, when heaven itself leans closer to remember. The angels do not merely watch from afar, they bear witness. They have seen the nights you couldn't speak and still believed. They remember the trembling prayers, the whispered, "Help me," and the moments when silence was the only offering you had left. They were there. Every chosen one has celestial witnesses assigned to their journey. They don't follow out of curiosity. They follow because they've been commanded to guard what heaven values most, your process. They stood at the edge of your despair and held the line when you could not. They surrounded you when darkness tried to convince you that you were alone. You may never fully understand how many times unseen hands shielded you. You'll never know how many accidents were redirected, how many traps collapsed before you arrived, how many arrows broke mid-air because angels intervened. Heaven's defense is silent but effective. The proof of it is that you're still here. When the angels testify, they don't speak in human words, they speak in remembrance. They recount moments as worship. Your perseverance becomes a melody before the throne. Each time you rise after falling, they sing. Each time you forgive when hurt, they shout praise. To them, your obedience is symphony. There were times you thought your story was too small, too quiet to matter. But to heaven, quiet faith is thunder. Angels marvel at mortals who still trust while bleeding, who still hope after heartbreak, who still love despite rejection. That kind of faith silences their songs for a moment. They bow in awe. You are living in the aftermath of their protection. The steps you take today are possible because angels cleared paths yesterday. And yet, they don't seek recognition. They rejoice simply because you are walking closer to purpose. Every victory you celebrate on earth echoes as celebration in heaven's courts. As the psalmist wrote in Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. You are not walking unguarded. The command to protect you was written long before you were born, and though you can't always sense them, the angels move according to divine rhythm, near enough to intervene, humble enough to remain unseen. There were seasons when you felt completely abandoned, when prayers bounced off ceilings and hope thinned to a thread. But in those very moments, heaven was closest. The angels don't rescue by removing pain. They strengthen by reminding your spirit that purpose is greater than pain. They speak not to your fear, but to your identity. They remember every moment of your transformation. They remember when your surrender was sincere enough to shift the atmosphere. They remember the day you stopped asking for escape and began asking for endurance. That's when heaven knew your faith had matured. Every tear you cried was recorded, not as weakness, but as worship. The angels gather those tears like precious water, carrying them as proof of your devotion. In heaven's archives, your endurance is not forgotten, it's celebrated. Even now, they whisper your story to other watchers in wonder. They say, "We have seen a human rise again and again, carrying light no darkness could extinguish." That testimony becomes part of the eternal record, a song that will be sung long after your earthly journey ends. And one day, when you stand before the throne, you will see them. You will recognize familiar presence, the same unseen comfort that once wrapped around you in the night. They will bow not because they are lesser, but because your faith has completed what theirs could only observe. That's the mystery of grace. Angels were created flawless, yet they marvel at flawed humanity who loves God freely. They worship in awe that you, dust and breath, could choose devotion without seeing the fullness of glory. That choice to believe unseen makes you radiant in heaven's eyes. So, remember this. Chosen one, every trial has witnesses. Every victory is seen. Heaven has not been silent, it has been recording. You are part of a testimony that spans realms. The angels' awe is not in your perfection, but in your persistence. When you stumbled, they saw your struggle. When you rose, they saw God's reflection. They understand now what even they could not before, that love, when chosen in pain, reveals divinity more clearly than light itself. And so, the angels testify, not with words, but with worship, not with reports, but with reverence. You have become their favorite story, the mortal who would not stop believing. The heavens still echo with the rhythm of your perseverance. Every step you take becomes a stanza in their endless hymn. They rise each morning to watch you choose faith again, astonished by the courage wrapped in fragile human skin. And when you breathe prayers into darkness, the angels listen in silence, hearts alight. They understand that your devotion carries something even they cannot replicate, a love born from choice, not sight. That love becomes heaven's brightest sound. The heavens are quiet now. Chosen one, not in absence, but in reverence. You have walked through every season of breaking, believing, and becoming. The journey that began in trembling has turned into triumph. The one who once whispered prayers in the dark now carries the sound of glory in every breath. This silence is holy. It is heaven watching the fulfillment of what was spoken long ago. The angels who once fought for you now stand in awe of what you have become. You are not who you were when this began. You have passed through fire, endured flood, and walked through valleys that once promised to destroy you, and still, you shine. This final season is not about striving, it's about resting in realization. You were never meant to earn divine love, you were meant to embody it. You have discovered that being chosen was never about perfection, but about purpose. The light within you was not given for performance, but for presence. You've learned that grace does not erase scars, it glorifies them. Each mark on your soul tells a story of survival and redemption. Heaven does not hide what you've endured, it crowns it. The radiance you carry now is not from ease, but from endurance. You glow because you stayed when leaving would have been easier. The angels have watched this transformation unfold, and even they marvel. They whisper your name through realms of light, as testimony, here is one who believed without seeing. You have joined the company of those who carried faith through fire and found peace in its ashes. As written in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 7, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. You have done just that. Your fight was not against flesh and blood, but against doubt, despair, and delay. And still, you ran. You kept going even when the road blurred beneath your tears. You reached this point not because the journey was easy, but because grace was real. Now, heaven does not need to command your steps, it follows them. The presence that once went before you now walks beside you. You've become a vessel of divine companionship, proof that God does not merely call the perfect, He perfects the called. There was a time when you questioned why you were chosen at all. You looked at others and thought, surely they are more worthy. But heaven never chooses by worthiness, it chooses by willingness. You said yes when it mattered most. You remained when others retreated. You believed when belief felt foolish. And now the reward is not material, it's eternal. You walk with unshakable peace, that quiet knowing that cannot be explained. The storms no longer scare you, because you've learned to speak their language. The winds that once threatened to scatter you now carry your voice farther than before. This is what it means to be crowned in completion. It's not about endings, it's about fulfillment. Every seed of obedience you planted through pain is now blossoming in unseen gardens. Your influence extends beyond what you can perceive. People you've never met will find strength in your legacy. You've become part of a greater rhythm, a pulse of faith that will keep beating long after your name is whispered into eternity. Heaven does not measure time the way earth does. What you've built in spirit will echo through generations. Chosen one, take a breath. Feel the stillness of divine satisfaction. You've reached a chapter where striving turns into serenity. The fire that once purified now warms. The burden that once weighed now blesses. You've crossed from proving into peace. And yet, this is not an ending, it's an eternal continuation. Purpose never dies, it transforms. The same light that led you here now shines through you, guiding others who walk the path behind you. You have become both the message and the messenger. One day, when the heavens roll open and eternity greets you with open arms, you will understand the full magnitude of what your obedience accomplished. You will see the ripple effects of every prayer, every act of faith, every moment you chose light over bitterness. You'll realize that nothing was wasted, not one tear, not one trial, not one waiting season. Heaven's applause is not thunderous, it's tender. It sounds like peace settling into the deepest parts of your soul. It's the quiet knowing that you have fulfilled what was written, that the angels who once guarded now stand aside and say, "Well done." So rest now, radiant soul, not because the story is over, but because it has become eternal. Your journey continues beyond time, carried on by the very light you've released into the world. The heavens are not closing, they're opening wider, welcoming the sound of your faith. And as eternity unfolds, your name will remain among those who endured, who believed, who burned bright in the dark and never let go of hope. The angels still whisper about you, the one who heard, obeyed, and became chosen one. If these words have found you, it is not by chance. It means heaven has brought you full circle to remembrance, to renewal, to revelation. You've walked through fire, flood, and silence, and yet you have become light. You are proof that grace still chooses, still restores, still reigns. If this message touched something deep within, let it not end here. Share this light forward, not as obligation, but as offering. Every time you share, it's like lighting another candle in a room full of shadows. Someone, somewhere, may find their strength again because you dared to pass the flame. If your heart feels full, like this message as your quiet amen. It's not about numbers, it's about connection. Each act of response is a small echo of gratitude, a signal to heaven that the message was received. And if you feel a stirring to belong, subscribe, not as an audience member, but as part of a movement, souls walking together through divine purpose. Think of it as joining a circle around the same fire, hands extended, hearts open. If this space has fed your spirit and you feel led, donate, not out of pressure, but out of participation. Giving here is not transaction, it's continuation. Each seed you plant ensures this light keeps burning, reaching others who are still wandering through the dark. And before you go, leave a comment, a word, an emoji, even a single line of truth that reflects what awakened in you. Think of your comment as a spark on the altar, a whisper saying, "The light found me here." Carry this light gently. Chosen one, let it move through you, into your home, into your world. For every act of faith, every act of generosity, every act of love, you keep the fire alive.